Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Talking Talent. My name is Andrew, and I'm from Talent Box, Jamaica. And tonight we're talking about, well, all things recruitment. So thank you so much for joining us. We have three HR practitioners who've also focused on recruitment. So it's an excellent discussion. Please let us know where you're joining from. If you're joining from LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook, please let us know. Thank you very, very much for joining. And we will be here discussing, as I mentioned, all things recruitment. It's a pleasure. This is Talking Talent. All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I see people tuning in. Thank you very, very much for joining us tonight. Again, please let us know where you are joining from. Say hi, say hello. This is the program where we discuss all things recruitment, all things career advice, as well as advice for those who are seeking for career opportunities as well. So let's get the ball rolling. Good evening, panelists. Welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
Good, good, good. So I have Nimhard, I have Julian Smart, and I have Benjamin Headley. Let's start off with Anadine. Tell us a little bit about yourself. And then we move to, who did I say? I said Anadine, right?
Yes.
So we move to Jodian and then Benjamin. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for the invite, Andrew. So I'm Anadine Nimhard. I am currently a talent consultant at EY Jamaica. I have been working in recruiting and HR for almost 8 years. I am passionate about recruiting and talent acquisition as I think it allows me to help persons. I am passionate about persons growing both in their personal and professional lives, and I'm always happy to help job seekers in getting some advice as an HR practitioner so that they are able to fulfill their dreams and, fulfill their passions.
Awesome. Thank you, Julian.
Thanks so much, Andrew, for inviting me today. My name is Julian Smart, and I am currently the HR Operations Assistant at HRM Options Group. And I have been in HR and recruitment for over 4 years. I love recruitment because it also gives me the opportunity to help persons get an opportunity to work, to start building their dreams. So that's why I love recruitment, love HR. So thank you so much, Mr. Andrew.
You're welcome. Mr. Headley.
I guess you saved the best for last. All right. All right. So yes, my name is Benjamin Headley, and thanks, Mr. Fairman, for having me, and my fellow host. Thank you for being here as well. I am currently a recruiter with Advanced Call Center Technologies. That's in Montego Bay, Barney Tech to be exact. I have been in recruiting for close to 2 years, so I'm pretty much the youngest kid on the block. However, as my other two hosts said earlier, it's about the passion. It's about the love and that inner drive for wanting to help people, because that's what the job is primarily about. And I think I inherited that. It's a natural part of me to want to see people succeed, to want to see people make the best of themselves. And that is why I take pride in my job. That's pretty much one of my driving force for getting up in the morning, even when I'd love to stay in bed. But I know that, of course, my input is very well needed, and I have an impact to make on somebody's life. So that's me in a nutshell.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be very exciting tonight, and I'm happy that you're tuning in. If you have any questions as it relates to job hunting or resume writing, you can ask. Or if you're entering this space, you can ask those questions as well. I'm very passionate about recruiting as well, and hopefully you hear that as we navigate this discussion tonight. So let's start off with any of you. Let's start off from the basics. How do you, as a professional, approach recruiting? Let's go with Anadine, actually.
My approach as it relates to recruiting, I would say, is that we have to ensure on both ends that the person that is selected for the job, that it is mutually beneficial. So just as how me as a recruiter will be interviewing a candidate for an opportunity, I think that the candidate should also be interviewing me and the company to see if it is a good fit, both from a personal perspective as well as if they are a culture fit for the job. In terms of interviewing, my approach is normally for it to be a conversation. So I try to ensure that the candidate feels comfortable. If they're a little bit nervous, I'll ask them a probing question, or just to kind of get them a little bit more comfortable. I feel like if you ensure that the candidate is comfortable during the interview, you're able to get more from them in terms of them sharing their experience and background, and they feel a little bit more comfortable in answering the question versus it being kind of a us against them, and it doesn't seem as if it's a positive conversation. So I try to ensure that just overall that the communication between me and the candidates, or the panel and the candidates, that on both ends the person feels comfortable.
Okay, and that's important. They must show up as their authentic self, because if they don't do that, you might misjudge, or place them in a wrong position. So that's important. Let's go to Jodianne. What's your approach to recruiting?
Okay, how I normally approach recruitment is continuously giving feedback to candidates. A lot of candidates would always ask, did I get the job? What's happening? You always have to ensure that you communicate with them. And yes, it may be a tedious process for a recruiter, but you have to put yourself in their shoes, where you were before when you didn't hear a call back from anyone. How did that make you feel? So my process is really to give them feedback. If they're not suitable for the position, I tell them the reasons, what they can work on. And sometimes I even call them back for another position when they go and work on themselves. So I always ensure that I use the pool than to be, I guess, going out when there are persons out there that I would have interviewed and given tips, and they come back and sometimes they knock the interview better and they get the job. So that's how I approach recruiting.
Great. Yes. Interesting. Benjamin.
All right. So recruiting, for me, I wear many hats at work. I'm a counselor, a teacher, a coach, a mentor, and the list goes on. And I wear these hats because I love my job. And my approach to recruiting, because I try to understand the emotions that are associated with recruiting, it basically puts me at a place where I have to be firm, knowing that, of course, my job is to identify the most suitable candidates for the post and attract same, have them screened, interviewed, etc. At the same time, I have a responsibility to ensure that I don't destroy persons. So when a candidate is not competent or not qualified, I take the opportunity to basically teach same candidate to say, all right, this is what you can work on going forward. And there's one thing I enforce. I try to tell candidates, do not lie. Do not practice omitting companies from your resume. You will have to plan beforehand lies that you'll have to tell in order to avoid certain things. And so I try to tell them, just be truthful, even if I'm not going to give you the position. But it's not so much about what you say, it's how you say. So I would help them to understand how to construct sentences so that they are not seen in a negative light, and also help them to articulate in a manner that will not incriminate themselves. So I use it as a
Right.
teaching moment to help them to understand. And what I try to do also is, even if I'm not gonna send you forward, I refer them to courses that they can do to get the training, or refer them
Yeah.
to other companies where I know them, where they may be successful and gather experience. So I try to build persons as well as try to make my numbers in order to obtain my objectives.
Yep.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. I love the fact that we're approaching this as though we're still human. Because I've come across a number of recruiters that believe that the candidate is doing them a favor. So we just want to get this quite clear that there's absolutely no recruiter on this planet that's doing a candidate a favor. In fact, it is a mutual exchange. So you have roles to fill, and you have gaps, as we say, to close, and you're searching for that talent. That person will come in. I said, pay me, and I come in and solve the issue. And so this is how we as recruiters and as practitioners, we must approach it. And I love the fact that we're all human, and we let them know that, listen, we might be sitting in this chair interviewing you, and probably to some extent making some decisions, but we understand that you're also on the other side of the divide, and we can sympathize and relate to you. So I love that very much. I see the comments are going off, so I'm going to attend to the comments in a few. So we talk about the fact that we all have areas in our approach to recruiting. For those who are viewing the program now, who want to enter this space, what are some critical skill sets that you feel a recruiter must have, should have in their backpack in order to succeed in this space? I'll go with Benjamin first.
All right, so people skills, that's very important because you're primarily dealing with people. You have to be an excellent communicator. You have to have good judgment because you're in a position where you have to make decisions on behalf of the company. You have to be a critical thinker as well. There are times when you're not necessarily going to get everything that you want from first glance. The resume might look outstanding, but it takes conversation, it takes the ability to probe. Because when a person is nervous or when a person is inexperienced, they'll tend to give off a tangent that if you're not professional enough, if you're not warm enough, you might write that person off as not being qualified. But when you possess those people skills, you're able to actually probe the candidate, try to feel them out, understand where they're coming from, and then you will know whether or not this person can be groomed. So people skills, that's very, very important.
Yeah.
Also, I spoke about the emotions. You have to, well, we're not operating from an emotional standpoint because, of course, if a person is not qualified, not competent, just not a right suit, you have to be able to stand firm and say, okay, this is the situation. You have to be able to do that. But at the same time, being empathetic, being able to put yourself in their position and understand that, hey, especially if you're the one that did the calling, if you reached out to them, so you call them, you introduce yourself, hey, I'm calling from X, Y, and Z company. We're hiring so and so, only to tell them at the end of the conversation, after you've builded their hope, that I'm sorry, we can't take you on. So you have to be flexible. At the same time, you have to understand the company. So if it's not a company that you're already working with, that you intend to advance in, if it's a company that you want to acquire the role of a recruiter in, you have to understand what that company stands for. And also, when you understand what that company stands for, you have to be able to put that company on a pedestal, so to speak, because it's that platform, the platform to which you elevate the company. That's the measuring tool that you're going to weigh the candidate against to find out if that candidate has what it takes to deliver. So it's I mean, it's all of those skills come
Yeah.
together. The subjects and all of that stuff, I think those things are secondary, but
Yes,
the
it is.
people skills and those things are what is very, very important in the initial stages if you want to become a recruiter.
Thank you. Awesome, awesome. I hope those interested in the field are paying attention and listening. Let's go to Miss Smart. Go ahead, and then
Okay, I second that. You, Mr. Benjamin, you have to have people skills. Trust me, I second that. Um, for me, how one should really well, if you want to be a recruiter, it's not just hiring and interviewing. You have to really be a marketer. Some persons, when they hear marketing, what? I'm not a marketer. Listen, recruitment will stretch you. You're trying to get persons the right fit for your company. So you're going to always have to try to market your company, brand it. You're going to also have to try to sometimes, head hunt. So you have to be flexible, where you're not just, okay, I'm going to fill this position, that's it. You have to go out. You have to go out of your way. You have to reach out to persons to get who you want for the position. So that will definitely help you as a recruiter. And yes, having an HR degree is good, or a degree is fine, but I more look at more soft skills, because that can always be taught. You understand? It can be trained and taught. So you should look at that if you want to be a recruiter.
awesome. Amadi.
I'm co-signing on all the points that Julian and Benjamin would have shared. I definitely feel that a recruiter is, I would say, the PR person for the company. So my background, I actually originally studied marketing, and I actually started in recruiting, and then I ended up doing a second degree in HR. But as Jodian said, you are a marketer for the company, and that is even why I've always been passionate about recruiting, where you have to understand, especially if you're recruiting for different roles, you have to get an understanding of the different roles that you're hiring for. So you can't just pick up a job description and read it. You have to have an idea to say, hey, if I'm recruiting for this specific position, I have to have an understanding, okay, for this role, you have to be able to do heavy lifting, or you have to be a strong communicator, you have to have project management skills. So you have to ensure that you understand what the role entails so that you can better match the candidate to the opportunity. The other thing I think is that unconscious bias. And what that means is that you have to be open to different persons. So as the recruiter, you can't allow bias to affect how you select persons. So you can't select someone because they have a similar personality to you or similar background. You have to remove unconscious bias. So you have to be open to different persons, different background, studies, and other factors that would affect that. You have to be open to different persons. And as Benjamin and Jodian had mentioned as well, strong interpersonal skills. No, the thing is, the recruiter a lot of the time is kind of like the project manager as it relates to the hiring plan. So that person has to do like the research for the job, ensure that it is posted, etc., as well as they have to liaise and coordinate with the hiring manager and the candidates to arrange the interview and so on. So you have to be able to think quickly on your feet. You have to be on the ball, and you have to be organized and detail oriented, especially when you're doing large volume recruiting. You have to ensure that you're juggling all the balls and ensuring that you're able to communicate both with the hiring managers as well as with the candidates as well. As Benjamin had mentioned earlier, ensuring that you're communicating with the candidates. So, if the phone screen is going well, if you can make recommendations to them at the phone screen step to give them a better opportunity in the interview, as well as after the interview, giving the follow-up call, providing the feedback and getting back to them. If you say that you're going to get back to them within 2 weeks or a month, you meet or exceed that timeline, because it's a mutual exchange. These persons, they are applying for the job, but they're taking time to apply. Persons are coming to the interview, they're taking time off from work, so they are just as invested as you wanting to fill this opportunity. So you have to ensure that both lines of communications are open. So as the recruiter, you're able to maintain that and maintain the interpersonal relationship, both from an internal perspective as well as from an external, as it relates to the candidates, and build that relationship and build that pool of talent.
Awesome. I'm really loving the responses. The fact that you have to be, you have to build relationships, you have to have great interpersonal skills, which does make up to a larger extent the successful skill sets for a recruiter. As Julian had mentioned, though, you have to be great at selling. You have to be a marketer, and I think that's one thing that is a component that a lot of us don't pay attention to.
Yeah.
But if you would take a salesperson who does well selling and put them as a recruiter, you will find that person will probably do well in the space as well. Yeah. And a lot of them like, oh, I only have sales experience, I can't. What I would say, and I have 2 points to what Annabelle mentioned, is that the fact that recruiters have to do a lot of research. But I challenge some of my followers and some companies recently that, listen, if you have the budget, you need to separate recruiting from sourcing. I've seen some of the companies that they have what they call a sourcer. So this person goes out and hunt down the talent, hunt them down and then funnels them through the recruiter. Not everybody has the budget for that, right? But for the recruiter to be successful, you have to have candidates coming in your pipeline. Am I right?
Definitely.
Absolutely.
You have to build a pipeline.
I'm sorry?
You have to build a pipeline.
Absolutely. And then you touched something, Annabelle. You touched on unconscious bias. Oh boy, I had to jot it down because I never want to forget. I didn't want to forget. When we, as recruiters, as we approach this space, we have to be mindful of this. Julian Smart says it's an 800-pound elephant in the room, and nobody realized that there's an 800-pound elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Right? Which we classify as unconscious bias. So, a great recruiter, I bought the book the other day, and he said that in order to manage unconscious bias, as recruiters, we must measure first impression loss. So if somebody comes in the door, comes to be interviewed, don't pay attention to how they dress, how they sound. You're going to measure it, but because you have this, you're trying to manage the unconscious bias. You measure that loss. Does that make any sense?
Yes.
Definitely it does.
So it does not affect your view.
Right. The thing about it is, a lot of the times when you're doing the interview, the recruiter sometimes have to be like the middle person or the mediator to the hiring managers based on their experience. So if they realize that the hiring managers are leaning more towards a specific type of candidate, unconscious bias sometimes, as it says, unconscious. It's not like you go in sometimes to say, oh, I'm looking for a specific person, or I feel like a specific person would be better for the job based on my personality or my preference for persons. But sometimes it's good to identify it upfront. So maybe you can say that, this person is reserved. Marky, we might not necessarily want someone that is reserved for this position, but outside of that, what are some strengths that you can identify from the candidate? So sometimes you have to identify the unconscious bias up front, in your meeting after the interview, to say, hey, I wasn't really truly impressed with the candidate, but okay, let us identify where the strengths are, and then also identify where the areas of opportunities are. I don't like to call them weaknesses, but
absolutely.
So identify those versus upfront, and raise your hand to say, maybe this person wasn't my favorite, but why? And the
Right.
recruiter also has to manage the conversation as well, because hiring managers might want a team of persons and they're all the same. But sometimes, you have to have persons that will question the norm, persons that will add value to the team as well by
That's
coming in
right.
with a different right. So the recruiter has to play that kind of mediator between the hiring manager and the candidate to say, maybe.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Mhm, mhm.
Absolutely. And there is a method to the madness. And there's a reason why the recruit is there,
Exactly.
Yes.
and there's a reason why the hiring manager is there.
Mhm.
Yes.
So you have to blend both of these carefully. Let's go to some comments. I see some comments coming in. Arion or Mr. Foot saying marketing and sales recruiting is all about selling. You have to sell a position to a candidate.
Mm-hmm.
So he's
Mm-hmm.
basically agreeing to our point. So here's a question. Why when people apply for jobs, some companies don't even have the manner to acknowledge you?
My
So you say
word.
hi to the
I would like
candidate.
to answer that. I would love to answer
Let's
that.
go to Julian and then Benjamin. I know this. This was coming.
Yes. All right. I would not want to blame the company for that, because I myself I like to give feedback, and trust me, if you give feedback, you will never leave work. So I really would not want you to take it personally. Don't take it personally. Or if you really want to know, you call the company, but don't take it personally, because you can't call or thousands of those applications. It's really impossible. But I mean, for some companies, they do try. So please don't take it personally. Please.
Yes. Yes. Go ahead, Anadine.
To piggyback as well, I think what she was asking specifically is when you apply just a general application, if most job adverts will say only shortlisted candidates will be contacted. I think from a back end support perspective, it's always good for companies to have an applicant tracking tool. So applicant tracking system. So what it normally does, it would populate the resumes that are coming in, and it will also give an auto response for persons that are
Yeah.
applying. And then once the persons are shortlisted, the recruiter would reach out to them. And then once the position is closed, once you close it in the system, the other persons that were not contacted or were not shortlisted as well, to advise them that the position has been that you have closed the position or it's no longer available. But you have to one of the other things candidates have to understand as well is that the job market is the demand and supply. You will post a job, especially if it's like an entry level job or like a generic job that most persons would qualify for, and you will get hundreds if not thousands of applications. It's if you don't have a system, and a lot of mostly larger companies or companies that have a large volume of recruiting, they sometimes have applicant tracking systems. But if you don't, to manage that through email, it can get crazy on the recruiter's end as well. And as Jody said, to also provide feedback to the candidates that would have completed the interview but they were not selected, and building your pipeline, it is a lot. It can it can be a lot. So it's not necessary that the person is ignoring you or that we don't want to reach out to everybody, but we have to be mindful as well that there are some limitations on both ends as well. That we wouldn't be able to reach out to everybody per se, but most jobs they normally say that they would only shortlisted candidates will be contacted.
Right.
Yes. Can you believe that the time has gone? The time, I don't know where the time has gone. Benjamin, what's your take on
Well, I agree with both Jody and Nadine. If we have one person that's in charge of pulling resumes and stuff, it is going to be an overwhelming task to get in touch with everyone. But what I see happening now, most companies are resorting to social media platforms where if you try traditional means of applying to the company, you can always go to the company's Facebook or Twitter page. You can indicate our company has it. You can indicate your interest there, and definitely you will be contacted. And I really believe it takes some level of importunity on part of the candidate too, because at the end of the day, it shows a lot about you as a person. If you're the one who is in need of something, you're in need of an opportunity, I believe the onus is on you, the candidate, to make the necessary steps to ensure that you are acknowledged. So if you apply once and you are not contacted, I believe you can go ahead and apply again, or by extension, give a call. If you try sending an email, then perhaps you could, bring a hard copy or something like that. So we have to be innovative. And where we are with technology now, we can't stick to traditional means of doing things. We have to ensure that we explore other options, because truly, sometimes we don't see it. You will send something, it goes directly to the spam. And so
Yes.
we don't get it.
Yes.
And these are
Yes.
things that you have to take into consideration. It is technology, it's man made, it does have glitches, and things do happen. So once a candidate sends out applications and they are not contacted, I think they can go ahead and try again.
The thing is,
Thank
just to
you.
piggyback as well, Benjamin. I mean, I remember in a previous role that I was in, a candidate had applied for a position, and she just kept applying for the same position, and she would call and she would email. And I said, no, man, I have to, even if I don't get to interview her
Yes.
with the hiring manager,
Need to
I
know
have to
who that
meet this
is.
person in person.
Yes.
And it's so when I finally met her, I said, I have to place you somewhere. I don't know where I'm going to place you, but
Yes.
Exactly.
you, I have to place you
Yes.
somewhere. And when I ended up giving her an opportunity, she started on contract and then she was made permanent. And I think in her either her first year or her second year, she got Employee of the Year while I was
Awesome.
Oh
there.
my.
So you
Yes.
see, and it's in anything in life, you have to be deliberate. And
Exactly.
sometimes you might have a closed door, but you have to go through a window. Sometimes, as I said, you can reach out to persons on social media. If you know someone that works at the company, some companies have an employee referral program that
Yeah.
if you were to recommend the person can reach out to HR directly to say, hey, this person meets the criteria for the job, can I recommend
Yeah.
them? And even overall, reach out and call the person in HR to say, hey, I apply for this job, I feel as if I meet the criteria for the opportunity, can I be considered? Sometimes we can't just send a resume and leave it blindly. If you want something, you have to go for it.
Definitely.
Follow up.
You have to
Absolutely. And
follow
I
up.
had that
Follow up
Absolutely.
is
discussion
key.
today. I've
Mhm.
had that exact same discussion today about follow up.
Exactly.
Somebody wants to know, where do you work? Anadine, please help us.
I, Sheena, I'm a talent consultant at EY Jamaica. So we are a professional services firm. I hope that
Awesome,
helps.
awesome. So, ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Talking and Watching Talking Talent here every Wednesday at 6:30 across our three major platforms: LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And we address all things recruitment, career advice, as well as if you're looking for your next job opportunity. This is the program you need to tune into. Tonight, this is what we call the Recruiters Think Tank, where we are just sharing our best practices or thoughts surrounding
Yeah.
the space. If you have any questions, please let us know. We were just on the topic of candidates not hearing back from the recruiter. And to be quite frank, if it's not an automated process, it can be very difficult for the recruiter or hiring manager to follow up. So for those who you're hiring constantly, and these are organizations I'm referring to, I would suggest that you automate the process. if an application comes through that doesn't match up to your requirement, let the candidate know. At least they will understand that, look, I didn't meet the cut. I think the challenge, though, is what we call ghosting. That, there are times when, the recruiter will be on the scene and the recruiter will engage the candidate, but after they realize that, look, this candidate is actually not somebody I want to engage further, the recruiter just disappears into oblivion. You send email, they're not responding. You call them, they're not responding. You can't find them. They disappear off the face of the earth. I think that's one of the challenge. And I would go, but I said, whenever I'm recruiting, I said clear expectation, to be quite frank. And I say to some of my, when I'm doing large recruitment, it's very difficult. But if it's just one role that I'm trying to fill, I let my candidate know that within X time, I will reach out to you. I might send you an email if I can't call you, So I think you may not be able as recruiters to do this to all the candidates, but those 5-7 candidates, those candidates who you think really had some potential but just didn't make the cut, reach out to them. Let them know, I've applied for positions before and they called me to tell me that I didn't get the job. Can you believe that? And though it was very difficult, I appreciated it.
Yeah.
But Andrew, ghosting happens on both ends, I've had candidates that would have ghosted me. So for whatever reason, they did the interview and, they have decided that they're no longer interested in the opportunity. And instead of declaring their hand upfront to say, listen, I'm no longer interested in the opportunity, even just to send an email to say, I will no longer want to continue in the recruiting process. You're just calling and you don't hear from them. And it's like literally, right. And, again, the communication, it goes both ways. Like, on both ends, persons have to ensure that there is an open line of conversation to, on both ends, where you stand with persons. But ghosting happens on both ends, and it's always so surprising, though.
It is.
But I think recruiters get a bad rap that we ghost people, but you'd be surprised. And Benjamin and Julian is agreeing that.
No, because it's true. Especially when you offer them the position. It's worse when you offer them the position and you're calling them and you really want them.
Nothing. I've had to I literally had to call a candidate's mother, and the mother had to break it to me that the person is no longer interested. And I was like, well, if you're no longer interested, advise me. I think sometimes persons might feel as if we have to. Go ahead, Andrew.
There are times when we have to confront the recruiter or vice versa, and just be very frank. It's a hard decision or whatever, but you have to. And it's just like me. I had the candidates reaching out to me about a particular role, and I know that they don't qualify. No, I have to let them know that unfortunately, we have decided not to pursue you as a candidate. And these are the reasons. Very difficult to do, but I think you are also helping the candidate as well.
Definitely.
I think, and from both sides, the job seeker don't want to let you know that, listen, I don't want the job anymore. When it comes to the recruiter, you don't want to let them know that, listen, unfortunately, you didn't make the cut. It's very difficult, but it's something that we have to do.
To me, I take a sandwich approach, right? But I think it's best to be upfront so they know. The other thing as well, even throughout the conversation, and even maybe you're not able to specifically go into detail with all the candidates, what I would have done in the past, I have like recruiting tips that if a person is not selected, just general recruiting tips in terms of improving their resume, how to conduct themselves in an interview,
Right.
just attach that in the email that is normally sent to them, that, unfortunately, and I don't, sometimes you can be as specific if it is a specific thing that they can work on, and sometimes
Yeah.
it's just a general, they're just not a good match. So you can send an email and probably include a little tips, in terms
Right.
of how to conduct yourself in an interview, so that they can come again the other time. They can come again.
Absolutely.
They can do better in the next
Absolutely.
interview, right?
Right.
Definitely, definitely.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. It was 2 days ago, a candidate reached out to me and said that she's looking for a job. And after she said that, she went ahead and she said, but I do not have XXXXX. I do not have XXXXX. And I said, hold on. You can't start with a negative, because
Exactly.
immediately you are selling me your shortcomings.
Right.
And that's definitely not a good way to start a conversation. I said to her,
Agreed.
what you want to do is to show up as someone with solutions. And I even went as far and I said to her, sometimes it is not about the bachelor's or master's that you do not have, or the experience that you do not have. It is how you're showing up to be a problem solver.
That is true. That is
Yeah.
true.
That is so true.
If I may
Exactly.
add,
Absolutely. So here's a question. How do you go about recruiting an individual with little or no experience, but that individual is qualified for the job? I think she actually answered the question herself. But Benjamin, how would you address it?
okay, all right. So I have a personal experience, and I was not a recruiter then. I was a normal employee. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. Now, there was this management. I'm going to use this scenario to answer the question. There was this management position that was being offered at a particular company that I was working with at the time. I had no management per se experience, and my qualifications did not exactly meet up to what they had asked for, but I had equivalence, and I knew what the job entails, and I knew I had what it takes to do the job. So what I did, I applied for the job. Now here's my thing. It does not matter what the job description or the job specification says. If you are interested in my application enough to give me a call, that means I have a 100% chance of getting that job. The mere fact that you considered my application, it means that I am in the lineup for the job. And so I went ahead, I did my research. I knew that it's a job that required me to know how to make revenue and how to prevent certain things. I went ahead and I did some research. So one of the first thing, you have to know what the job entails, and you have to be able to identify
Yeah.
qualities that you have that go in line with the job. So it may not be quote unquote on paper, but if you have the hands-on experience, if it's a job that requires you to be in leadership, you've never been in leadership in a work environment, but maybe you're a leader at church. Maybe you're a leader in your
That's
community, in
exactly.
a youth club. You now should be able to put that in a sentence or a statement to say that, okay, based on what I understand about the role, I'll be responsible for leading, inspiring, etc. X amount of persons. I don't have the accolades per se, but I have X amount of experience leading people. You go on to give scenarios when you've engaged in leadership activities and the results that you yielded from those activities. So right there and then, you're selling yourself. You're saying, listen, I know you asked for this, but this is what I have to offer, and this is very much equivalent to what you're asking for. And I know for sure that you're not going to lose if you take me on. The long and short of it, I didn't get the management position per se because they pretty much had the person in mind who they wanted. But as a result, I was promoted because of my exceptional performance. So if you know that you don't have the qualifications and the experience. Ensure that you do extensive research about the role. Ensure you understand everything there is to know about it, and identify qualities that you have that go in line, and then construct statements and sentences that put the person in awe. They have to sit down and think.
That has happened. Yeah.
That's it.
Benjamin is preaching.
All right, thank you very
That's
much.
true.
Listen, I think we're going to need a part
That's
2
true.
because
I
the
think
time
so.
is gone.
Benjamin, the time is
So I
going.
think maybe next week we have to come on again, and I see a lot of questions coming
Yeah.
That's true,
in the chat. So I guess next week, the ladies and gentlemen, you will have to tune in next week. Hopefully with the panelists. May I have permission? I have a guest next who should come in next week, but hopefully she doesn't kill me. But I think we've not even touched half of the questions I have. So there's this one burning question. I won't even touch on this one though. There's one burning question that I have that I want to ask, and then we wrap up, and then you give me your confirmation whether or not you can join us again next week, and we kind of wrap up the program. What are your thoughts on including salary? And this is a big one. Salary information in your job advertisement.
Oh my.
Should I go?
Benjamin, you want sure.
Anadine, go ahead, Anadine, go ahead.
It is a tricky situation. I think culturally, mostly only public sector roles, the benefits and the salaries are normally included in the job advert that is shared. From a recruiter perspective, if I can look at it from a recruiter as well as an employee perspective. So if you were to share information, and persons, like for example, if you're recruiting for a role and there's another role within the company and you share the salary information, it means that you basically know the salary of the person that is there. So probably from a privacy perspective, I think in terms of it, to kind of circumvent that, what I normally do in terms of recruiting, I normally during the phone screen, I will ask the candidate what their salary expectation is. And at that point, I'll advise them if it is within our salary range or if it is outside of the salary range. And at that introduction, I'll also ask the candidate to say, hey, I'm not sure if your salary ask is within our salary range. What is, in terms of the figure that you quoted, is it negotiable? And if the salary is outside of the range, because there are several factors that person decide to take a job, because persons will take salary cuts to get an opportunity to work within a company or to work within a specific field. So I'll ask the person, say, hey, what is the minimum that you're willing to accept? And even outside of that, if it is that the salary is outside of their range, if it is that they would still like to continue in the recruitment process, it saves us both on both ends. If you decide that, if it is 1 million is your asking salary and I can pay the 1 million, upfront that, this is outside of the range and I know if you're interested or not. So to me, that initial conversation, it kind of opens the door, I would say, in clarifying what the salary expectations are on both ends. But I'm not really sure if I'm 100% comfortable with sharing salaries in job adverts that are shared.
Okay, good. So I'm going to have you answer this question. Any of you hiring at the moment? If you're hiring, put your hand up. Okay. Yes. Okay. Anadine, you're not hiring? No. No. So Anadine not hiring. So that answers that question for Graham. All right.
Not right now.
Very interesting. Yes, very interesting though. On the topic of the salary inclusion in the job advert, I have a totally different opinion. I believe that salary must be included. And again, you did mention the fact of privacy, and we can respect that. But including the salary information in your job advert is also bringing to the fore the equal pay, because sometimes getting a higher salary is not dependent on your qualification. It depends on your negotiation skill in the interview.
That is
So
very
you
true.
might have two people in the same organization end up doing the same role, but because one was more adamant for a higher salary, you realize that that person gets the higher salary. Should that be the case? No, right? I think it also saves us a lot of time, you know, to matching the ideal candidate. Rather than giving one specific figure, I think that companies can give a range.
Okay.
You know, you give a range, and so that will, you know, you immediately weed out people who are not.
Yeah.
You know,
That's true.
rather than I shared something on Facebook, LinkedIn the other day. You know, you spend almost 7 times doing interviews, only to find out that you can't move because of the salary.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yes.
So as you said, Anna, be upfront with that.
Be upfront.
From the get-go. I know we've got to run. So let's go through some of the comments and then we run. I think I did that already. I think we have a lot of people saying that they really appreciate the program. What's your final thoughts, Benjamin? Then we go to Anadid, and then we go to Julian.
Okay. All right. You have to have a drive. You have to have something that you know, pushes you to want to get up in the mornings. You have to have something that you're working towards. You have to have something that is your driving force. So as I said before, if you send out applications, and regardless of what the nature of the job is, if they considered your application and give you a call, it means you have the opportunity to get the job. You then have to ensure that you go and sell yourself. And when it comes on to upward mobility, it's an individual thing that we all have to take into consideration. I normally tell persons in any company at all that you go into, you're going to go there, you're going to see bad habits. You will see people doing stuff that you will be told from the training and orientation not to do. You're going to see persons doing it. But what do you want for yourself? Are you here to be a bandwagonist, or are you here to set a trend? So you pretty much have to know your priorities. You have to know what you are working towards, and you have to ensure that you get up, go there and pursue them. There will be obstacles. That's pretty much how life is set up. You will have obstacles. You can't be swayed or dismayed by those things. You have to ensure that you fight for what you want. And that's pretty much it. Whether you are a recruiter or a job seeker, whatever the case is, you have to have something that keeps you moving forward, and you have to be willing and determined to fight for it, regardless of whatever comes your way.
Okay, awesome. Go ahead. Julian.
Okay. All right. Yes, to add to that, you have to take initiative, everyone. When you're applying for positions, don't just send your applications. But before we even get to the applications, we want to ensure that you're ready for the job. Do you have your NIS? Do you have TRN? Do you have your documents? Many times recruiters want, but because you don't have the documents, we have to move on, and we don't want to do that. So before we get into hiring, how are you prepared? Are you ready to be hired? So that is really my thoughts at this time. Yes.
Oh, good. Anadine, I think, final thoughts. I see,
Sure.
And there's a question that I need to answer. Go ahead.
There's a quote that I learned from one of my best friends, and it's something that, I try to apply both in my personal and professional life, which is to prepare to influence the outcome. You know, a lot of the times as job seekers, we tend to worry that, oh, if we send the application, they might not accept, or there are other persons that are more qualified, or I don't have the best resume, or I don't have the qualifications, or I don't have the amount of experience. But we tend to not focus on what are the things that are within my control that I can do to influence the outcome. So if a job is
Yes.
posted, can I do the research? What are some of the, the skill sets or the experience that they're asking for? Even if I don't have the hands-on experience, can I research and better understand what the expectations are for the role? In working in recruiting for a while, even when I'm going for interviews, I still approach it the same way as a candidate with no experience in recruiting. I print the job description,
Absolutely.
I highlight and I make notes. If there's a system that I'm not familiar with, I'll Google the system to see if I'm familiar with a similar system. I write the questions that I think that I might be asked, what my answers will be. So it's easy. It's the forefront of your thoughts. If somebody asks, tell me about yourself, I know the adjectives that I'm going to use. If I'm going to an interview, I have 3 or 5 value added questions to ask the interview, because it's a mutual exchange. I want to know about the company, I want to know about the role. So you have to be deliberate in your approach. A lot of the times, persons will just, all right, let me just send in a resume, or let's see how it works out. But if it is that you're passionate about this role or this opportunity, and it will assist you in your personal and professional life, you have to be invested. You have to take the time, you have to research, you have to follow up with the HR person, you have to reach out to the persons that work there. Maybe someone in your network that works at the company. They can also give you some insight in terms of how the company
Yes.
operates, information about the department. What are some of the things that are within your control that you can use that would enable you to get an opportunity. And as Benjamin rightly said, the fact that you get called for an interview, you have 100% chance that you can be considered. Because and Jody and Benjamin can agree as well. Any positions that's posted, especially now in COVID and the job market, you can post
Overload.
a job today, and by tomorrow you have 100 applicants, right? So what
30
are some
minutes
of the
after.
things with the listen, what are some of the things that
Yeah.
are within your control that you can use, to better enable you? No, even, and I don't want to trail, I can go on forever, but even updating your
Yeah.
resume, LinkedIn has the option now that you can update
Yeah.
your resume using LinkedIn. Microsoft Word has a resume builder
That's
that's
a big
built
one.
into Microsoft Word. On the internet, there are systems that you can use to build attractive resumes. Like, there's so much resources that you have available
Yeah.
as an applicant that would enable you to influence the outcome. So what are some of the things within your control that you can do to enable you to get an interview or get a job opportunity that you always wanted? Focus on the positive, being solution oriented.
Listen, it has been an awesome, 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 awesome time with all of you. If you agree that we should catch up next week, because I haven't, the questions are still here in my book, and there's some comments that I haven't
It's fine.
gotten to. So you'll hear again from Benjamin, Jodian, Anadine. It has been an awesome pleasure having you. And please send me an email to let me know if you're willing to join. Send it to me tonight or tomorrow morning latest. If not, I have my guest. I have to reschedule my guest. I don't want to move on from this discussion when we haven't truly examined it and looked at it in its from every angle. So please let me
It's
know.
fine.
Can you share quickly how they can reach you, Jody and Benjamin, in terms of hiring?
Benjamin, you want to go first, or?
Sure. I actually have a company cell phone. It's kind of crazy having one because persons don't respect boundaries, but it's fine. It comes with the job. So I have a company phone. I also have a company email. So if it's a case where Mr. Fairman, you want me to give that to you, and you can, or if you'd like for me to give it now.
Yes, you can give it no, because some people are asking. maybe a website or email address where they can send their applications to?
All right. So the number would be 876 area code 550-2585. That's 550-2585, and the email address B like Bravo, H like Hotel, E like Echo, A like Alpha, D like Delta, L like Lima, E like Echo, Y like Yankee, and that should be B Headley, the at sign, then ACT, and the word today. That's acttoday.com. That should be bheadley@acttoday.com.
Thank you, Julia.
Okay, right. The number is 632-2570. That's our office number. And for the email address, it is jobs, that's JOBS at HRM options, OPTIONS, so that's options, group, GROUP.com. All right.
Thank you. I see some people helping you out, Headley. They're putting up your,
it should be
email address.
LEY. Yeah, it should be LEY.
So there's so LEY. So it's B Headley, and Headley is HEADLEY at acttoday.com. Ladies and gentlemen, the time is now. We are closing the program. I know you have so many questions, but catch us next week on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook, where we continue to explore the idea surrounding recruitment, and especially recruitment in Jamaica. Thank you to the panelists. This has been Talking Talent.
Struggling to find the right candidate? Need to streamline your recruitment process with a simple and user-friendly platform? Introducing CareerJA, Jamaica's newest and most cost-effective way to hire fast and hire smart. As an employer, you can advertise your job, schedule and track interviews, chat with job seekers to build your employee brand, remove the recruitment hassle, and focus on your core business futures by using CareerJA today. CareerJA, connection made easy.